Hello.
Hey. I'm getting blinded by the afternoon sunlight
Bl-
setting.
Blinded by the light.
Blinded by the light.
Yeah.
Might have to go grab my sunglasses and slap those babies on.
So, what's your weather like there?
Oh, it is extremely. Well, today is not bad because the sun's shining, but it is very cold. The wind chill is like at about 22.
Hmm.
And we've got that polar vortex and a significant snowstorm coming starting Sunday night into Monday. So we're supposed to get out
Uh,
here 8 to 12 inches of snow,
oh, wow.
and then it's supposed to stay cold. So it's going to be, it's going to stick around. So I'm actually kind of excited, but I shouldn't say kind of. I am excited because we haven't had a good snow in about 9 years.
Huh.
And we'll have a snow, but then it literally melts the next day, kind of thing. It's just not been that great.
Hmm.
So we're gonna get a good snow and it's gonna be here. Makes it a bit problematic. I've been busy on the farm. I had to go buy a couple of extra heated waterers and stuff for the geese and the ducks and the goats and stuff because I know not nobody's gonna move far from where they are because with 8 to 12
Right.
inches of snow, they're gonna stay put.
Pretty
So
much. Yeah. Yeah. We've got the front coming in tomorrow. It's supposed to start as a high of 64 before daybreak and then drop to 24. So
that's a swing.
that's yeah, 40-degree drop. That'll do it. And then it's supposed to be below freezing for days other
Yeah,
than during the day. They're expecting about an inch of snow here. That's about it on Thursday,
yeah.
Thursday, Friday.
Oh, nice.
So,
That's a lot for Texas.
I mean, not really. That's an
I'm being
average.
facetious.
Yeah. Last year, or actually 2023, December was when we had that, what they called snowmageddon, when we had 5 or 6 or 7 days below freezing and all sorts of damage and, you know, very big problems. People died.
Yes.
So,
That was when, weren't the interstates freezing and you guys had some like significant pileups and stuff and birds were literally dying because they were
yes,
freezing solid?
yeah, yeah, it was bad. And that was the one where my daughter and her husband were out of town. Actually, they were out of country, and
Mm,
their house water pipes broke in the ceiling and
I remember
basically
that.
destroyed their house. Yeah, I remember it too because I was trying to clean out 6,000 gallons of water out of their house from 3:30 in the morning till about 7 that night when they got back.
Wow.
So yeah,
Hmm.
total remodel caused all sorts of things. But anyway, well, I'm glad to see more than two people on here.
Yeah.
I didn't know. We didn't have too many attend the last time we did a Q and A, so I didn't know if these were still pertinent or interesting or people were interested. So I'm glad to see a few people show up.
Yeah. And I know a couple, Karen and Rachel both said they weren't going to be able to be here today
I saw
and
those
looking
comments.
forward to the recording. So,
Okay.
yeah. And did you get the two
I just opened that
questions?
up. Yes,
Yeah,
thank you. Thank you.
absolutely.
Okay. Well, I'll go ahead and start those. If anybody comes on, that's fine. If any of you guys, Denise, Lisa, Candace, Carol, and Sharon, if you have any questions, comments, or otherwise, chime in after I get done with these. So I'm reading this for the first time. It says dogs avoid change, finding it stressful. Well, so do humans. If moving mealtime is stressful, should it be kept at a predictable time or moved in order to force adaptation? Very good question.
Hmm.
I'm asking because this is something that came up last year in a trainers forum with quite a few trainers arguing that it is better not to feed at the same time every day. Okay, so here's my take on this, and my take always goes back to uh, canids in the wild, which is the genetics of these animals, 99.3%, and the understanding of what these animals are. They are canid professionals, um, and so um, here's my take on this and what I do with my dogs. I do not feed my dogs at the exact same time every day. As a matter of fact, it changes with the seasons too. Why? Because there's more daylight in our summer and less daylight in our winter. And so the timing of hunting and what they hunt, depending on the time of day, morning, evening, dusk, dawn, midday, etc., changes because of that, because of opportunities of those animals that move around at different seasons. This is also why I feed my dogs differently, depending on not just age, but on the seasons. Um, and so I try to replicate what's natural in life, which is you're not guaranteed to eat, period, at all, much less at the exact same time each day, much less each day. Now, that doesn't mean I withhold food from my dogs. Sometimes they don't eat, and that's fine with me. Um, you know, at times, Bosch and Bellis turn up their nose at food. Um, Even though it's good stuff, they like it, etc., etc. And I accept that. I'm not going to fuss over it. I'm not going to worry about it. Um, right now, my other two dogs, they'll snarf it down, whatever I put in front of them. Of course, what I put in front of them is hopefully decent nutrition for them. And my window for feeding them is anywhere, I'll say in the morning, anywhere from 7 to even 10:30. And that could be summer or winter, frankly. Um, you know, I don't feed earlier than that because you got to get up, go out, replicate the hunt, do activities together, engage, all of those things first. So they have to have quote unquote hunted or done actions together as a pack so that they have that intent. It's just like you making money. It's the same, it's the same mentality and intent. You make money so that you can eat and feed your pack, your family. And that worth, that value within yourself is what they need also. If you just hand them food uh, on the clock, that really destroys a lot of self-worth for them and expectations. It does a similar thing to humans and really destroys your own self-worth thinking you deserve it. So it isn't about the uncertainty, it's about the naturalness of changing times. And I don't worry too much. I don't watch the clock, when it gets dark at 5:15. It, I may start, I'll, for instance, I'll give you my home thing. So I'll start downstairs and we'll go in the backyard and we'll do our activities together as a pack, which is the hunt replication of activities. I'll do my twice a day poop cleaning and stuff like that of the backyard. And we go through those motions. We do more of the hunt, and then we celebrate going inside that we were successful in hunting. And then I feed them. So 5:15 by the time they eat, maybe 5:45. Um, could be that we start earlier when it's actually dark at 5. We may start at 5 till 5, but it's just kind of the same shift in time frame. At night, generally anywhere from 5 to 7, because that that time frame. And again, I look at what a dog needs through the day, each day, what they need that day, through the season, their point in life, what they had before, the type of supplements, whether the body's absorbed them or not, knowing how long it takes for those to absorb into the body, how long it takes to deplete. It's not just absorption, it's about the depletion of those minerals, those vitamins, those proteins out of the body. Don't overfeed your dog. They're athletes. And by overfeeding, I don't mean just bulk. I'm talking about the exact stuff that you should be feeding your dog. Study it if you don't know it. Okay, because that's the health and life of your dog. Just like you should be studying what you should eat and how much or how little. The more you eat, the worse you feel. So I split that into not just 2 meals, but what does that meal represent to those dogs? What do they need for the day? And then what do they need for the nighttime? And they're different. Um, and do I need to add a small third meal if a dog hasn't been eating, if it's been infirmed, or if it's old like Bella, who can't and won't eat the same volume that she did even 2 years ago. So I have to add a small, you know, third meal, maybe 10 ounces of pure protein or 6 ounces of pure protein or something like that, depending on what she ate the rest of the day, how much and what she did. Um, So those are the elements. It's more of what and how than when. The when is I do normal twice a day. What exact time of the day? It's purposeful, but it also bends somewhat around my necessary schedule. So I hope that answers that question well enough.
So
Obviously,
it,
go ahead.
in a way, your unpredictability becomes predictable.
Exactly.
Okay.
That is the point, is the you know who is perfectly predictable? What is perfectly predictable in life, in the universe? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. So being able to count on something is different than perfect predictability. Okay, you count on leadership. Is that perfectly predictable? No, because every situation is different. We talked about, last year or year before, we talked about transitions. We talked about thresholds. Those are um, indicative of everything in life, where what's next is unpredictable. But the result is what we're looking for to survive. And that's the way dogs think. So it's about the resultant. So if you're anticipating something happening and you don't get it, that's a stressor, isn't it? But if you know you can count on something being successful in a hunt, the hunt action is the most important thing, not the eating. So creating a pack situation, a relationship where we are almost 100% successful in a hunt situation, because the hunt is a somewhat manufactured by me, by our behaviors and actions and what we do together before the feeding. So just the action of hunting together bonds you better, makes it predictable in that we are successful. Now, what are we successful for is the surprise. So the surprise element is kind of the additive of, what are we going to have? Because they don't know beforehand, before the hunt, during the hunt, what we're going to have. So they don't know what proteins, what additives, what's in there. Is it egg? Is there a little bit of flakes of cheese? Is there, you know, what is it? Is it pork? Is it chicken? Is it beef? How much do we get? Additional chicken broth in there that was cooked off of chicken? Do we get chicken livers, just tiny bits, added in? Those are all the things and elements that that are the quote unquote surprise and the additive value of what we do together. So, okay. All right. Well, that's my short answer. You know me. Okay. The second question here is, given how sensitive a dog's nose is, why does a lost dog have to get right up next to his owner in order to confirm who that person is? Why do they keep their distance trying to figure out who this person is? Okay, well, that's a very good question as well. So yes, the dog's nose is sensitive. They can smell that, but you have to understand that within a half a day, almost all dogs, regardless, when they get away or out or run away or escape or are lost or whatever else, why ever they got out there, within about a half a day, most dogs go what we call semi-feral. And so that's just a survival mode. And having the chaos of the environment, whether if it's rural, then you have to watch out for all the smells of, plants, animals, et cetera, what's out there. There's usually, certainly in North America, coyotes, wolves, bears in some locations. There's certainly, there's there's 100 million dogs in the United States alone. So, and probably close to 8 million in Canada. And so, we have a lot of predatory threats. And then you've got, in North America, what, 350 plus about 100, so about 450 million humans in North America too. And all of those are potential threats, plus every car, every movement of everything. So that dog goes into they don't consider themselves lost. Yes, they're separate from their territory and their known pack. That's the problem. They're separate from that and they go into a survival mode very quickly. And so that survival mode, that's the lower brain. Okay. And it is not thinking about getting back, it's thinking about survival. And so you have truncated any of the learned how can I say this, the memories of the safety of quote unquote home territory and all of those elements, and you've transplanted that into an unknown location. It's as if you started playing a football game in the middle of a shopping center, in the middle of, Dillard's. Doesn't make sense. And so you would have to understand everything about, if the football game was meant to be there, who's there? Are those people, and are the rules the same? Are those people the same that you know? You don't just jump into a football game. So all of those elements, and that's the simple part. So all of those elements are factoring in, and survival brain goes back to primal instinctual lower brain, not upper brain learned knowledge. There are loops that go on every, we've studied this to where in many cases, a single thought within limbic system, your lower brain, has 7 to 11 different loops up and back within a microsecond into the upper brain and back. But it's just to corroborate, is this right upper brain? It doesn't go into a upper brain thinking mode. It just shoots these little circuits up and back to say, is this right? Am I feeling this correctly? And it takes a while to transfer from lower limbic survival to upper recognition. And that's why they have to come so close and recognize, and the smell needs to overwhelm the rest of the environment that they're stuck in as a threat. So again, that's a simple, very, very short description of what happens. Humans experience that. I'm not going to explain some of the things that I've seen and been through, but humans experience that in a way too. So, okay. So I hope that answers some questions on that. They do. They go into just pure survival mode after a day or two. When they get hungry, it's all about survival. They forget about, they're not pining for home. They're looking for food, water, and shelter, especially 2 days in. Okay. And that's what I teach in that course, is how that brain transforms very, very quickly, by the hour, by the half day, by the day, etc., as you go on in that Lost Dog course. So I'm hoping to reenact that next year, not this year, but next year, on an online course, as an online, because it's tough for people to travel, and I understand to spend 4 days, and I'll have video examples of things, rather than us going out and experiencing it on site. So that's going to be the hard part. That's why it's going to be next year, not this year, that I'm going to reenact that as an online course. So Lost Dog, it's one of those that, frankly, anybody who has or deals with dogs should know that information, and many don't. And that's unfortunate, because there's so many dogs that get away. And if you deal with dogs at all, you're going to lose a dog at some point, for whatever reason. Yes, Angela, sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So a continuation on your answer, or question to your answer, in regards to, the nose and being right up on the owner and smelling the owner. And you just mentioned that, when they get into that semi-feral brain, they're looking for food, water, resources, shelter. So
They're looking for
would you,
survival first, not to get killed.
correct.
Then all of that's gravy.
So I would think, or kind of the path that I'm going down here is, while I'm getting blinded by the sun, is they're using their eyes more versus their nose. And
Yes,
I
partially.
mean, and it's not necessarily all dogs that do that either. I mean, if they're
Right.
actively using
Yeah,
their
there's a
nose.
broad range. There's a broad range. Some that stay in, they're just going for a fun run, like a husky, for 3 days, and then they go, oh, hey, there you are. Whereas others are on the other end, of they get out, they're lost, they're terrible, they're terrified, and they would not recognize their owner if they jumped on top of them.
So, but I guess my question is, is they're not actively using their nose as much then in those moments?
They do, but it's about the entire environment. Remember the illustrations in class that have the human brain versus the dog brain, and those areas of what focus of the brain is just for sound.
Right.
That's just for sound. Now for scent, it's entirely different, but it's also always, human brain focused on human. Dog environment is a point. Dogs, human, dot, environment, dog. Those are the
Right.
focuses. So what they're looking at is environment and dog when they're out there. Human is last thing in the mind. Okay.
Gotcha.
That's scent. That's everything. Their structure. The brain is structured differently for a different survival purpose than ours. And ours used to be more their way, 15, 20, 25,000 years ago, because we were hunter-gatherers. And so ours has changed to societal survival, because we control environment.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Looks like Carol has a question.
Oh, yes. Jump in there, get all skinned up.
So, so when you're talking about environment, it just took me down a rabbit hole as I'm thinking about when I'm out with my dogs and I'm trying to be more aware of the environment and more aware of their reaction to the environment.
Right.
But what I'm also seeing um, is so out on a walk versus um, around the neighborhood versus someplace else. I
Mhm.
see more of a, I'll just put quotes around reactivity. I think it's just more of an awareness and more of a guardian than if I'm in a new place.
Yes,
Okay.
because of their familiarity with the sights, sounds, what should be there, what should not be there. If they're in a non-extraterritorial jurisdiction area, they have to be guarded and fully aware. When they're in a territory where they're used to the understanding of where those smells are locally, because smells come from, here in the United States, every once in a while we get smells from the Sahara in Africa.
Yeah.
So, but that's not a common thing and is not local. It's understood by the dogs that's not a natural occurrence. And we get, depending on the direction of the wind and what weather patterns we're in, we get, smells from miles away that dogs know through degradation of scent time how far away that is. And it's also not localized because once the pattern shift changes in weather, they know it's not part of the local environment itself. It's an occurrence beyond. So that's where, when I teach the lost dog, we talk about extraterritorial jurisdiction, what you can see out the window and where you pattern yourself to go all the time on a walk with your dogs. It's not your territory, but it is your boundary territory to keep you safe, is the way they look at it. And so they know all the smells, everything that should be there. And if you do it on a regular basis, they also know the smell of each car, each tire, each everything that it occurs naturally and normally in there, and what's different in that environment. Which car is just there visiting, essentially, what we would call visiting. Okay. So all of those things are capable of being understood by the dog in a local area. And so therefore it is more aware and protective, if you will, or jurisdictional, it's the county sheriff, not the city police.
I've got 3 sheriffs in town.
Yeah. Yeah.
But okay, because that was just something I was noticing when I was walking them this morning is um Candy's more aware, more guardian like
Hmm.
than Red and Nipples.
Sure. Well,
Um,
she's a German Shepherd. She has a different purpose than an Australian Shepherd.
right.
Or
And
border
they're also a
collies.
lot more familiar with the dogs, the smells, everything that's going on because they've lived here for 11 years, so they know.
Yes, and of course she's at an age now where it's becoming more mature in her understanding of things.
Oh, but she's still a puppy.
Yes, she is, but she's becoming more mature in her understanding. Her brain's developing faster than her body is at this point.
Yeah, there are when she's yeah. When we go out with her vest on, there is a completely different dog. She is
Yes, that's the representation of that, and I've talked to people that in the past, people that I've trained, dogs that I've trained for them, classes about how I worked with my dogs with different harnesses on the same dog for different behavior and jobs, if you will, what we call jobs. Whether we're in search and rescue, in urban or rural environments, whether we're doing water recovery, cadaver recovery over the water, that's a different thing. It tells the dog exactly, this is your job, this is what we're going to focus on, this is how you behave, and this is what you are expected to
Oh,
do.
yeah,
Same thing,
very,
thing with explosive detection. I'm looking back at Mia right now because Mia was all three of those things plus more. So,
yeah, no, it's quite obvious she understands. Because as soon as that vest comes on, there's the maturity, and I know it's really not maturity level, it's more of an understanding, but she knows.
it's
And she's still,
expectations, sure.
yeah, and she still has, we're still training because she is still puppy and curious about everything that's going on around her. So
Mhm.
she wants to know. I mean, like I said, her name should have been Gladys Kravitz because she wants to know where everybody in the house is at any point in time, whether you're human or canine. She
Yeah,
has to know where you're at.
absolutely. Yeah,
And she
absolutely.
is,
Well,
so when we,
that's the element that you want of a service animal too.
oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. But it's, trying to help her understand that when we're out, like at a grocery store, it's not appropriate for her to stick her nose in the freezer when I'm picking
sure.
something out.
Yeah.
So just going through those things, and it's just I
Mhm.
just take a tap on the leash, and she says, "Oh, okay,"
Yep.
and she turns her attention. So, but
That's
it's
that's about your behavior creating the behavior in the dog, and that's what it's not the rote training that many do. It's your behavior that affects the dog the most.
yeah,
You are the example, and that's what the relationship based aspect is all about. You're the example, you first. That's what it means.
mm-hmm,
And yeah,
yeah,
and we're going to talk about that in this next upcoming online relationship. What does that mean? Everybody
yeah.
has a relationship. What is it?
What is it? And it's different. Every
Yeah,
dog is different.
it is. You should be the guide, and that's what I'm going to talk about. So we'll see
Yeah.
then. Okay.
Absolutely. Okay, that helps confirm what I was seeing actually today when we were out on the walk, and then we went to the grocery store.
Yeah.
I was trying to understand, and she is right now she barks at anything that moves when we're out walking. So we're
Mm-hmm.
trying to work on that behavior.
Gotcha. Well, it's alert, 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 danger alert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just trying to make her understand that I understand, I got it. Let's move on.
But it's also a warning. Dogs use it as a sound warning. Hey, here we are. We're coming. Get out of the way, etc., etc. Stay away from us, or alert, and then alert to you too, the pack. In other
Oh,
words,
yeah. And it's
that's what sound's used for, frankly.
yeah. No, she's doing well, and the actually the boarders are helping to guide her because they when she gets too excited, they actually correct her and
Hmm.
tell her, calm down, it's okay.
Yep. Yep.
That's a good thing. Okay, thank you,
That
sir.
is a good thing. Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. Thanks for the question. I think I enjoy answering questions more than I ever do teaching. Just, straight teaching subjects. I think I've always enjoyed answers more, answering questions than anything else. So I enjoy these sessions.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So, uh, we had a deer that was hunted back in November or like mid-November
Mm.
and killed. Interestingly, before we found, because it was a local hunter here, before we found the body, a fox in the field got to the hind end of the deer,
Mm.
scratched open, got himself a free meal, and tore the fur off.
Yeah.
And so I took the dogs for a walk over in that backfield here off of the farm. And, we've had plenty of rain. It's dried out, rain again, dried out, rain again. But I noticed, well, every time we go past it, the dogs stop and smell it. It's not a huge pile of fur. It's just a small amount, but it's still there. And they smelled it again today. And I thought to myself that I'm in awe that there's still enough scent there that they're still inspecting it every time we go past.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I'm thinking to myself is, I wonder how long will that scent remain there? And they'll tell me, but do you
Yeah.
know about how long that scent will likely remain there, that they will find it interesting, where they will want to stop and smell it?
Well, nature's an interesting thing. I mean, you know, you can find buried cadavers that have been buried for years with a dog. And we couldn't tell. We're not able to tell, but it's so long that the ground has settled back to natural, all the green grass, etc. I mean, we're talking about 20 years. Uh,
Wow.
so their capabilities, that's why I teach what I do with their understanding. Their brain, it's not just their nose capability, it's their brain is totally structured for that. When I, you know, when I mention that, you know, they can detect one particle out of 10 quadrillion. That's 10 with 15 zeros. Write that out for yourself and look at that graphic description of things. One particle out of 10 quadrillion. And they smell all of them at the same time. That's their capability. We can't do that. That's like us imagining the seventh dimension of the universe. How do we do that? We can't. We know it exists, but we don't know how to do that. You know, it's a mathematical projection to us. That's all it is. And, but to a dog, that's its universe. That's how it sees reality. I even have to use a human word, sees, because we're I dominant. So it could be years and years and years. Now, you know, Coffee, um, when she was young, and I took her out to the center about 6 or 7 years ago, and she discovered a turtle at the base of one of the trees. The turtle had died there, and she sniffed all around it. And um, to this day, when I take her out, she goes to that spot and sniffs it,
Wow.
whether it's the memory or the memory is triggered by, I've seen her just kind of running happily past, and then depending on air direction that day, which is usually from the south-southwest, if she's running past it on the north side, she'll whip around. So it's obvious to me that it was all she got to take is that one particle in, and it triggers that memory back to go back to that spot to check it again. So that's a 7-year cycle right there.
That's
But
impressive.
that's why I said wherever I've been on Earth, you know, in course one, I say wherever I've been on Earth, you know, 54 countries on 5 continents that I admit to. And if it hasn't been washed off completely or completely washed away, um, if it's a protected situation and I've touched it, my scent is still there, and dogs can detect it. And that's, you know, 71 years of stuff. So
Thank you.
yeah, yeah. So when I say, you know, their nose is like our sight, if a building exists from 400 years ago and it's still there, we can still see it. So yeah, that's what's valuable to them for survival. That's their morphology is scent. Makes more sense for them to have that capability for their lifetime than it does for us for our lifetime. Makes more sense for eyes to be dominant for us. So that's the difference of the morphology of us. And a conversation I was having earlier with a client of mine about how the difference of how we think and how dogs think is the gap. That's what creates the problems between us. And if you can bridge that gap with your mind, you're supposed to have the superior mind about thinking about things in the way that dogs understand them and not us. And you can go back in your genetic memory of what it's like to be a hunter-gatherer and subsisting out there in the wild. We have examples of that. If you, there's all sorts of TV documentaries and things like that you can gain that that direct memory experience by watching these primal visceral things that go on in nature and with humans too. But if you don't have the direct experience, but the reason it makes sense and the reason you can understand it is because you have that genetic memory from 200,000 years ago. That's why. Otherwise, we couldn't place it. That's why we can't place seventh dimension. We don't have any experience of that. So, okay. It helps to study quantum physics, guys, and quantum mechanics. I know, it's crazy. It's just about dog training. It's about everything. So, okay. Anybody else have any questions while you guys are on here? No? Okay.
No,
Outstanding.
I have one.
Oh,
I have
oh,
one.
okay, Lisa.
Hi. I notice with Remy, she still has some struggle with certain environments. So, because we do live in a wilderness area, and when I take her out to hike, it's the random cars that come by with the random people, the unknown. They're constantly going by. And so I've been trying to work with that with one of her trainers, and it's great, but it's still happening, and I feel like I'm reinforcing it by
Okay.
going and I try to get distance, and I'm like, and the further I go, then she's like, well, okay, then I'm gonna do it from this distance now. So I know
Can
she
I,
means well. She's a shepherd, so I know she
Yeah.
means well. She's trying to keep me safe, or us safe, because it is.
It's an alert. Yeah, it's an
Yeah,
alert for you. But
yeah.
can I just ask, I'm just a little confused when you say that it's the cars and the people going by, the random people, but what exactly does she do? Does she,
Full
what does
body
she do?
hackle and lunging toward wanting to just full
Oh, okay.
on attack.
Oh, okay.
And she doesn't do this in crowded areas. Like I can take her to cities or parks, and she's totally calm. She gets
it's the
really freaked out.
contrast. So it's the
Yeah.
contrast. If you're talking
Thank
about
you.
out in nature,
Yep.
so
Out in
it's the
nature.
contrast. And so it's much like if you look at, how do you get a change of behavior? If you do the same thing over and over again as a response, you're going to get the same behavior.
Yeah.
Okay. So you have to give an entirely different response that makes no sense, that the dog doesn't get reinforced by that. And what happens is, we're here matching the dog all the time. And when we go here and go like this, now the dog goes, well, wait a minute. And it tries to amp it up. You have to stay here. And this is what people make a mistake. They start going like this, but. No, it's just this now. And so after, the better you are at doing this, the faster this happens. Okay. That's how you change a behavior. And I could give hundreds of thousands of examples of what that means for just about any behavior you can imagine. You have to give an appropriately different response, a composure aspect behind it all, saying, no, we're not doing that anymore. This is what we're doing. And I'm disinterested in what you are telling me, not ignoring you, just saying, nope, not interested. Let's do this instead. The engagement part is the most important part. If you're disengaged, if you don't matter to your dog's going to continue doing stuff. To what level do you matter to your dog then is the appropriate question. And that's, people don't like facing that because a lot of the times you're not as relevant to your dog as you think you are, especially in critical situations like survival situations. They take over in that situation. And so when you have contrast, much like a thunderstorm comes along, and it's dead quiet inside, and all of a sudden, boom, and you're literally shaken to your core, and your lungs compress like this on a vibration. And a dog doesn't understand that contrast of dead quiet to boom, like that huge boom. It makes no sense to him because loud noises mean something's right here at you, and there's nothing there. So they can't conceive of what that is. And that's where changing that volume level of what's here, I'm using sound as an example, to, instead of this line of sound level here of white noise, and there's a contrast like this, now that white noise is here and the contrast is here. It doesn't make it as shocking. So when you're out in nature, out in the woods or you're wherever else, and you come by a road and people are passing by, that's out of bounds. That's an unusual contrast. And of course, it's going to excite something like a German Shepherd. Does that make sense?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Yeah, and and I think she sees me different in that situation than she would in a crowded park or a city. Because we
Well,
can
what you've done is, but in a crowded park or city, here's the bandwidth that's already there. So the contrast of these things on the edges doesn't matter because it's all of this activity that makes sense in that location. When you're
Yeah.
out in nature, now sound is different than, and so you got sound, movement, and scent.
Yeah.
Okay, so out in nature, scent, there's an overall thing, and some things don't belong there. Cars.
Right. Cars and and
Okay.
random people all of a sudden showing up. Right.
Sound, scent, movement. Things don't move in nature at 40 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
see that contrast. You're like this on the bandwidth of, being out in nature. And then all of a sudden this stuff happens. Of course, the dog's going to react that way.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Because like with horses, she doesn't. And with
Mm.
random dogs that
Yeah.
because sometimes hunters leave lose some of their dogs from the
Yeah.
pack.
Right.
And we ran into one the other day and she just did a little boop and then she
Mhm.
was fine. Then she just followed me the other direction. It's those cars. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the way I would introduce a different concept to the dog is to stay away from road areas as much as possible, or go into the woods from a busy area and walk along the highway and then go into the woods away rather than coming at it the opposite way.
That's a good
So,
idea.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
I was due for a good idea finally.
Thank you.
No, change the dynamic. If something isn't working, you have to change it, right? So you have to have a different response. You also have to not anticipate. You have to be you yourself, you first. I have to be composed. I've got this. You always have to do that, especially with a dog like a German Shepherd that's going to be protective, period. Okay. And you go, no, you don't need to do that. I've got this. Look, let's go. And just take over. And it's not a forceful takeover. It's just I've got this. I don't know why you're acting up. It doesn't make any sense to me. You know, let's just go. Your protestations don't make any sense to me. I've got this. Nothing bad's going to happen. Trust me. And trust is the main thing. That's where a relationship comes from. to be able to trust, and relevance. What level of trust do you have in all those different situations? That's what you have to work on. Okay. Okay. Good question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. No, that's the easy part, is answering it. Now doing it is the hard part. But it's also the enjoyment of learning and finding out about that dog, exactly that dog. That's the enjoyment of it. Challenges is what life is all about, and it's how you approach the challenges that makes the difference. So, okay.
Nelson,
Anybody?
there's
Yeah.
a question in the chat from Candace.
Oh, okay.
How to help a dog become more stable when households change? For example, either people of the pack, family leave, dogs get added, or general household changes.
Okay. That itself is one of the, matter of fact, I think I'll do that as subject matter, not that particular question, but what I found over the years being the major problems, if you could pick, 1, 2, 3, 4 elements that almost all situations that I ever walked into had a major element of those in it. And that itself, constant chaos, constant change, is one of those elements that causes dogs to not trust the situation, including and especially the humans. And so that constant change, what you have to do is at least one member of the family, and usually dogs understand each other better than they do humans, obviously, and they're more relevant to each other. So if you've got multiple dogs, the dogs kind of band together and count on each other. That could be good or bad, depending on the rest of the human and other animal situation. Most of the time, dogs are magnanimous. They just want to get along. And, they can expect being fed and cared for and all that stuff, quote unquote, cared for in the way we think of it. But sometimes dogs disagree with the humans leaving and coming in, or if the humans are directly changing. Even my pack, years ago when I was working with behavior cases, or I'd even foster a dog for, different groups at times. And again, working on behaviors, the reason I fostered them. um, wasn't just, I didn't just take in puppies. That would have been nice, compared to what I did. But, you know, even that, my permanent pack had to have a break from that, from the constant changing and change up. And, my pack let me know when they've had enough. So you have to be aware, you have to be understanding. You can't, I give the description of, if you fill a balloon up and you push the balloon in somewhere, if you just add a little too much or you push it in, it's going to pop out somewhere else that you didn't expect. And that's behavior. If you fill that balloon up to where it just can't go anymore, and you fill it up a little more, it's going to explode, or you push it in, it's going to pop out at a different place that you didn't know about. It makes this choice. And that's kind of what happens in behavior. So constant turmoil, that dog has to count on someone. And that's where the focus on relationship-based behavior modification and training is you first. You're the one that becomes the base for the dog, your behavior. And if you're working with clients, you have to transfer that understanding to them. They have to be trustworthy to the dog, not the way that humans think of being trustworthy, because a lot of stuff that humans do don't make any sense to dogs. And that isn't being trustworthy. All the weird things that we do, we've got this plastic thing to our head and we're monkey chattering all the time and we explode in laughter or we get in anger or we watch some, boob tube thing and, have our mouths open drooling and we're staring at it and the dog's trying to get your attention and then you get some emotional thing. It makes no sense to the dog. You are not understandable. Those things are the things that make you irrelevant. So working on a person, at least in that household, becoming the relevant base for that dog. And everything I teach is about becoming the base for the dog so that it can count on you. It can trust you inherently. And that way, training is that much of everything else because when you ask the dog to do something, it will do it for you. That's the training part. But why? Because you've got this. They trust you inherently. You are the base. So that, and that's the way I train dogs and teach dogs is if I change a behavior here, I'm not going to proof a performance in a location that I've always worked out with that dog and show it off and say, here's how this dog acts here, and never go out and do it anywhere else. And it's not just location, it's the people you're with, the dogs, it's every situation possible. You're trying to expand that. I give the story of Barney. I should have written a book on Barney because that was probably the best example case of a dangerous dog terrified out of its wits that became within 30 minutes trusting of me, and we became lifelong best buds. I trusted that dog, and he trusted me. We were bonded beyond what people think, and because he could count on me, and he gave trust to me in that he told me through his behaviors I could count on him to not do what he wanted to do, which was to attack. And he became a very happy, trusting dog. And because I was the base for him, and I took him after the base level stuff that we worked for 6 weeks in a row, then, we moved to different locations and different environments. One scared the hell out of him and we didn't go back there because it was too much. It was over the edge. But I mean, we were in, downtown Fort Worth. We were at Texas Christian University. We were in shopping centers. We did all sorts of things, inside of Home Depot with all the different things and going up to people wanting to be petted. And that was not Barney. uh, so, so there's different situations. It's a good question, but it's truly something, someone, and if the human has the responsibility to become the base for their dogs. You're the one that wanted them, and you're the one that stuck them together. That group of dogs would not have come together naturally. So that's what you've got to look at is how do you create that pro-social group that they can count on you so that all these other chaos going on all over the place, they look at you and you're still the stable, trusted pack member. Okay. That's really the answer. And that's frankly the essence of everything that I teach. Okay. Does that help, Candace? Okay. I hope that makes sense, but there's years and years and years of study to that. Sorry. That's the fascinating thing about it. And the better you get, at for yourself, the better you're able to transfer that information to others and learn how to teach it to others. Okay.
I have a question that probably is
Mhm.
kind of stupid, but
I've never heard a stupid question other than, do I wear green underwear? That's a stupid question. And no, I
that's
don't.
TMI.
Yes, it is. And that's personal. And I'm not
Um,
going there.
I you're talking about, you know, being predictable and calm and getting that base in place so the dog trusts you.
Yeah.
And you also talk about dogs don't understand things like, you know, when you get upset or you burst out laughing. So I'm assuming that doesn't undo the trust. So does the dog just learn to discount those emotional outbursts?
Good question. No, so what happens with most dogs and most humans is, yeah, the dogs discount everything. That's the problem. So the overwhelming majority of human behavior and actions and our monkey chatter, they just shut out. And that's why there's such a gap. And the humans don't don't know how to do anything but physically control a dog. So so the way I teach a dog is I'm more quote unquote dog-like in my behavior. I don't mean, get down on all fours and sniff their butt and stuff like that. I'm more composed, don't do those things in front of them till they trust me to a level that I see that if I do something, they know it isn't weird. Yes, it's strange, but it's not something threatening. And I don't mean anything bad by it. That's the key. And you have to understand how a dog's brain processes, the stages and steps they go through, the amount of time that it takes for each one of those categories of dogs to process stuff. You can't push a dog. You push them to the edge, not over the edge. And too many people try too fast to push a dog over the edge, and they either recoil or they dismiss you. So it's a fine edge. That is the art of it, is the experience of over time of working with that. Sorry about the old answer. The old answer is, work for 40 years and 10,000 dogs and you'll start to see. It's the old thing of the father of modern karate, Gichin Funakoshi, moved to, he was an Okinawan, moved to Japan and worked at Tokyo University in 2000 or 1905. And Japanese had never seen karate before. That was a base level, ugly, crude thing from the Okinawans. And so he started teaching karate. Well, okay, towards the end of his life, when he was in, I believe, late 80s or 90s. And he kept, studying, just, doing knife hand blocks constantly. And one of his, upper belt, multiple black belt students finally asked him, Sensei, oh, Sensei, why do you keep studying this? And his answer was, because I feel like I'm finally beginning to understand it. So it's a never ending process. We all want the answer. We all want that button to push and go, okay, fix that. You can never get it. You just get more adept, more knowledge. And that requires you to lower your ego and study them from their standpoint. Dogs are not lower than us. We put ourselves above everything else. And so if you look at every dog as an equal partner in learning about each other, that's the best position you can put yourself in, because then you're open to receiving all that information rather than discounting it and trying to control and crush that dog. And that's my humble opinion. I've got a beginning of understanding and a beginning of work that over 50 years of working with this, that I'm feeling a little comfortable about being able to transfer some of that information to humans. So I hope that I hope that somewhat answers. I rambled a little bit. I'm sorry. But that's the reality of it. The better you get at something, the more, don't get your ego involved. Don't think you've got it because you never do. And it's like us looking, scientifically at the universe, but there's a universe the opposite direction, is smaller than us too. And it just goes further and further and further, smaller. So you could spend a million lifetimes and never know it. That's the point. So it's working with those dogs. It doesn't matter if you work 10,000 dogs, it matters. It's like the old saying, in racing, race driving, and I instructed for years, decades. Created instructor course where we created instructors to be better drivers and instructors for racing. And there are fast guys that drive fast cars, and there's guys that drive fast drivers. And it doesn't matter what car they have, be the fast driver. So it's not about getting the Malinois that's perfectly bred to do all of this stuff and then just input. It's about taking that dog that doesn't trust humans and getting it to trust humans. And you're going to learn more from that than you will this on behaviors. Nothing wrong with taking that Malinois that was bred for that, and you learn from that dog. It's not about you teaching the dog. Dog's capable of all of that. This dog wasn't capable of trusting. That's a different universe altogether. So it requires both things in your studies, but it requires you lowering your own ego, taking your protective shell off and opening yourself up to that other existing being. So I'm running out of time in my life, obviously. I want to impart as much of that as I can anymore. So I don't hold it back as much as I used to. I hope I'm not insulting anybody or, um,
I'm still a little confused by it.
Okay.
If I bring a dog into my home, a dog, say that I'm adopting,
Okay.
and I want to earn its trust,
Mhm.
I would, start being calm and predictable and put the structures in place for it and all the rest. But you're saying that it discounts everything,
No, not everything.
not
It-
not everything. So it will take it. It will listen, or it will watch what I'm doing in that area,
yes.
but it will discount if I, get emotional at some point, or if I burst out in laughter, or
If you have human emotions that it can't understand. Okay.
okay, so it will discount those because I'm putting in place the base, the foundation.
Yeah, if I grabbed you out of the universe and stuck you in the outback of Australia with Aboriginals there that are still traditional Aboriginals, okay, you could observe things that they do and kind of understand what they're doing, but you wouldn't know their entire universe. You would
Right.
discount those because you have an entirely different experience,
Okay.
right?
That makes sense.
And so it takes time for you to take your wall down to absorb how they see things, because their answers are just as valid, especially in their environment,
Mhm.
as yours were for that other environment. It's not that they're less capable, less intelligent, or anything else. It's you're out of place. And that's that dog coming in out of place.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it takes time for them to absorb and change. How do you get a dog to go, okay, I sort of can see I can exist in this, to total trust? How do you get that? That takes effort, and it does take time. And how much time? Well, that's all about understanding the neurobiology of how brains work and the amount of time that it takes for the right circuitry to happen for the right outcome. That that's that's a process.
Thank you.
Okay? I hope that answers better. So, is it possible? Yes, the only dogs I've ever seen in my life that it was not possible are literally miswired, what we would call insane. They were abnormal. And that was only 9 dogs out of 10,000. It's very, very rare. I don't care how aggressive, how fearful a dog is, they can become a trusted and trustworthy pack member. And that's had the honor and opportunity to work with those types of dogs all my career, and wasn't easy. Wasn't easy, but they're the ones that taught me. So, and of course, you're presented with an unattainable how can I say this? You're presented by that dog with something that is what you know dogs could be, but is unobtainable by that dog. So you study the heck out of how can I get that dog closer to that ideal. Now, the ideal has to be for the dog, not for me. And that's where people make a lot of mistakes, is they want that dog to become a human dog, not a dog. And so they do things that they think are advantageous to them in their environment and the way they want a dog, but aren't advantageous for that dog. So, okay. Thank you, Sharon. Appreciate it. Thanks for the question on that, because that's really the conundrum. It really is. And chaos happens all the time. It's to what level? And some dogs can most dogs can handle chaos pretty well, depending on the level. Change of environment, a change of a home, change of all that stuff. But if it's a constant chaos of all, you move 3 times in a year, you have people coming and going, you got dogs coming and going. There's nothing to hang on to. There's nothing that's safe. There's nothing that is ordinary. It's as if you went outdoors today out of your house, and all of a sudden it's in Italy. And then the next day it's in the Sahara. And the next day in Antarctica. It makes no sense. It just, okay. So that's the chaos that you have to describe to people when they have, well, but my son came home. You should know my son. Well, he's been gone for 4 years. It's not a pack member. And so all of a sudden you have made the decision. And typically the dog goes, okay, I'm going to decide who comes in and who goes. In most homes, that's what happens. The dog does, not the humans. Humans expect the dog to just understand, and they don't, and they don't agree. Humans think globally in our society. Dogs think pack that. Okay. That's their capability for social. And there's not much we can do about that over the next maybe 30,000 years. So we have to think like them and understand why they behave the way they do, and not anticipate, but to teach them before they get to those situations that it's not up to you, it's up to me. You can trust me. That's how we handle those situations. Okay. And that's not dominance, that's leadership. Leadership is observed and followed. If they can trust me, they can trust me in this situation. I'll remind them, hey, you can trust me. I've got this. And they go, oh, okay. Toffee can go bark at the front door because a car went by, and I go, Toffee, got it. She stops barking. I don't get upset. I know that's what she's going to do. She's a German Shepherd. Well, everybody thinks she's a Malinois. She's a German Shepherd.
That's one of the first things I learned from you at the first workshop I went to, about the barking, because there's something out there. And now with my dogs, I just go to the window and I look out and I say, it's fine, I got this. And everything goes quiet.
Yeah. Yeah. That's all it is. It's an alert. Hey, hey,
Yeah.
hey, pack, come here. And when the pack comes, they go, yeah, I don't care. And they go, oh, okay. It's simple, and yet um, that's an amazing revelation to humans.
It is, yes.
Yeah, that's why I let dogs teach me, not humans. I'm a poor substitute for a dog, let me tell you. But I can explain it to humans in a human term a little bit. So, okay, guys. Well,
This is great.
I've enjoyed this. Thank you very much. I don't know how much these questions, some of the questions dealt with what we've covered in previous lives, but I hope you guys are getting, well, you guys, but also anybody watching the videos. I hope you're getting um, value out of this, and I don't mean monetary value. I hope you're getting value out of this knowledge. The whole point of doing the lives was to have continuing education opportunities for everybody worldwide if they wanted. And and I enjoy doing these things. I have a whole list of online courses we're going to be developing over the next few years. It's going to take a few years. Some of them have come out of these live talks. Most of them have come out of recognizing that it doesn't matter how many live talks I do in a row on that subject, it still requires a course. So that's what I'm doing, is looking at that. I started them as potential aspects of a live talk or a series, and thinking about it is just too, it would be too convoluted, too chopped up, and much too in-depth to do it as even a series of lives. And it does it more justice as an online course. So that's what I'm going to do. Basically, what I want to do is leave a library of courses, information, studies, etc., between the live and the online courses for everybody, for a resource for whenever, whatever you're interested in. So that's where it's going. And looking forward to Angela and Bree introducing the podcast.
Yes. Yeah, we're excited about that.
When are you guys gonna start that as far as publishing?
So the intro is going to come out on January 14th.
Okay.
Very first intro. We've got several interviews already recorded, and we're still recording more. And yeah, it'll be really,
Good.
it's exciting. It's just enjoy connecting with fellow professionals, dog enthusiasts, and hearing their perspective on their, what they've learned about a dog's eye view. I mean, that's the name of the podcast, and how it's changed their life and their journey in working with dogs. So it's been a joy talking with all these different people, an honor as well. And we hope that it will enlighten people or inspire people to continue to ask questions and learn more about cooperating with others from different perspectives, and that we all have something to say, and we all have something to add, and we all have a different perspective that can add to each individual's journey as they work with dogs. So it's been a lot of fun.
Should be really good. Yeah, I think the intent was to it isn't about, they're not interviews about, hey buddy, how you been doing? What'd you have to eat? How much did you drink? That's not what these things are about, guys.
No,
So it should be very interesting. I don't know any of them. I know some of the people that you've interviewed. I don't know who all you've interviewed. There's a whole list of them though, and should be really good. Should be really good.
Yeah.
Some names that you guys know, some you don't know, and I hope everybody watches it. So
yeah,
it's
tune in.
Yeah, tune in definitely.
Yeah, we'll be getting some more advertising out on Instagram when it's gonna release and when the first interview's coming out, so look for
Okay.
that out there.
Do you
Okay.
have to
Well,
be on Instagram for it?
No, you do not have to be on Instagram. They are gonna get released on Spotify. Do you have Spotify?
No, but I can get it.
And we're
Yeah.
also going to release on YouTube video if we have video, because it depends on if the person being interviewed wants to allow for video. But it'll also be audio on YouTube.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank
I
you.
guess one other thing about the puppy development course, some of you guys have taken that before. Tried to get it as a recorded, but the file is too big without the file server and all that we're trying to develop now. And I decided in the interim of that, I would redo the online puppy development course as a more focused, I'll put it that way, course. That's in February. That's 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th. That's 5 to 8 p.m. Central. So 5 days, 3 hours a day, 15-hour course. Be in depth and pretty intense as far as that goes. So unfortunately, you have to listen to me for 15 hours, but otherwise, it should be a very good course, very informative. And then, other online things. We've got obviously Blue Ridge. We've got the RBBM and Art of Leash Handling, 21st through 26th of February at the center. Course 2 that's sold out, so forget it. You don't have to worry about that. In April, if you had the aggressive dogs mini course, we got the second part of that in April 3rd, 4th, 5th from 1 to 4 p.m. Central. So that's Aggressive Dogs 2. There will probably be a 3 because at this point I don't see myself covering everything in just those 2. There's just so much and so much, I hate to say misinformation, but that's the only word I know how to use at this point on working with aggressive dogs. I see a lot of very bad work out there with aggressive dogs. And then online RBBM in April also. And then Polite Play in May. So 3 days from 6 to 9 p.m. on May 7th, 8th, and 9th. I'm looking forward to that because people have asked me about play and, parameters and rules and all that stuff for years. And I've had some lengthy and some not so lengthy explanations of what that is. I figured I would just make it a course that people could understand better about what is polite play and what are those parameters. So that'll be in May. Then I go to Calgary, Canada, 23rd through 28th for RBBM and leash handling. What's the next one? The Netherlands, I've got course 3 in June, Netherlands, July for RBBM and leash handling. And then we've got Pack Dynamics in August. So 18th, 19th, 20th, 21st, 22nd from 10 to 1, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Pack Dynamics is not what you think. And it's going to cover as much as I possibly can about what that means, how to create, how to how to select dogs, how to know when a dog doesn't match up, and how to help that dog and yourself within that pack. And that goes for you as well as any clients that you have. So very important course that I've been thinking about for years and didn't quite know how I wanted to do it. And I'm still cogitating on a few aspects. Once again, it's only 15 hours because it could be probably a week-long course on its own, 72 hours or something. So there may be a follow-up on that one too the following year. I don't know. And then the September is Human Learning Online, 23rd through 25th. In other words, learning types, and how do you use that with your client, with yourself? And this isn't Myers-Briggs. It's not any of that stuff. It's understanding how to reach that person that you're talking to and analyzing what kind of, not just personality, but how do they absorb information, just like a dog, but with humans. And that's important because, to be successful at working with human clients, teaching, anything else, you got to reach that. Got to reach that person. Doesn't matter what you say. They may not understand it. They may reject it because of something you said. They may not care. So how do you reach that person? And that's whew, that's 50 years of teaching and um, understanding neurobiology and psychology and all those things, PSYOP and those things, trying to go into just 9 hours and barely touch the surface, but we'll see. And then the last online one for the year is December. That's personality types of dogs. And what does that really mean? Well, that's December 4th through 6th, 5 to 8 p.m. So I hope some of you are interested in some of those. There should not, other than most of those are all lecture type, and so there should not be a limitation on number other than course 1 online. I always have a limited number there because we have to have interactive, videos and all that stuff. So, and I have to be able to get to every video. So, but with the other courses, there's no limitation as far as the number of people on there because you got nothing to say. So, so hopefully that something interests you guys, or I have something of interest for you. I'll put it that way. And hopefully that's of value to you. And again, we'll see you on the 15th of January for relationships. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Nelson. Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Angela.
Thank you, Angela. Thank you, Nelson.
Adios.